Hey, it's Dan. Today I'm going to talk to you about how I deal with the death threats and a general update video for you. I haven't been as consistent with the videos lately because I've been really engaged in my own process. So there's this part of me that loves social media. It's like my job too. So the more I'm over there, the more I kind of create traffic for the various revenue streams, which are pretty microscopic, but enough for me to pay rent. So I thank God for that. And I also love to tell the truth, and I also love to help people. But I'm also engaged in my own personal process and really working at basically brain regeneration is kind of the main thing I'm working on. And it all kind of does tie back into why all these people were threatening me, telling me I should be dead, I should be killed, I should be in prison, because I made a post on Instagram. Amazing. Instagram has now become Dramagram, but that's okay because not everyone shares my opinion. So this big bodybuilder guy who has a PhD, which means he probably knows everything about everything, got all bent out of shape, very aggressive, angry, sent over his horde of minions to attack me because I said that chemotherapy and radiation suck, And I stand by that opinion. That's just me for now. I mean, I look at the whole pharmaceutical thing. They made $1 trillion in 2017. Now, I'm not going to get sucked down into the dark pit, but I'm just saying, like, when I make these videos, the truth just kind of comes out. A lot of times I'll have a general outline, but then whatever flows out of me is just what flows, what I see in the world today. And my understanding of things, and the reason why I think a lot of people don't understand all this stuff, is because way back in 1902, there was a merging of Rockefeller with the Carnegie Foundation because the AMA was dying. The American Medical Association was simply dying. Why? Because they were using bloodletting. They were using leech therapy. They were using lead therapy. They were using mercury therapy. Okay? So they were using what was called at the time heroic medicine. In other words, get in there and attack the disease. At the time that Rockefeller joined with the Carnegie Institute and began to, give grants, $1 million grants, which is a lot of money back then, to the medical schools. And then the Rockefeller Foundation would put a representative who was not a medical doctor in any way, shape, or form. They wanted to see how is our money being spent. They wanted to control the way that the school was educating its students because Rockefeller had a plan. He had all this leftover petroleum residues, and so he thought, well, what am I going to do? I got all the oil, now what am I going to do with all these residues? Well, let's just make some pills and then sell them to people. And so the AMA was dying off at the time, and the herbologists around the end of the 1800s, the 19th century, at the end of the 18th century, we were seeing the herbologists at the top of the game. That's where everyone was going, and that's who was getting the results, was using herbs. And chiropractic was doing well, naturopathy, and even homeopathy was doing well, far better than the AMA with their bloodletting and their craziness, attacking disease. Now we see that the Rockefeller influence of, hey, this is what we want you to teach in your medical schools. This is the only thing that's allowed. And so all of the grants and all the money would go to the pharmaceutical-based educational allopathic, surgeries and drugs kind of consciousness. And so all the other schools of thought just naturally died out because there was no funding. And so after just a couple of decades of that, pretty much all the other schools of thought by the 1920s had diminished quite rapidly. Now, we had the Hoxsey cure, which was getting a lot of results with cancer patients. We had the Essiac, that was getting a lot of results with the cancer patients. We had the Gerson therapy. They were getting incredible results with juicing and raw foods. And Gerson was like, hey, come and check this out. Look at my data. Look at these files. Look at what's happening. These people are getting cured of cancer. And they didn't want to see the data. They didn't want to see it. They didn't want that to be. They didn't want Essiac tea to be healing a vast majority of the people that came to see her. The Hoxsey cure, passed on from his father, make it free and available to everyone. And Hoxsey was already well off, so he was trying to really, disseminate this valuable cure, And then, of course, later on, we had the Brzezinski stuff, and they suppressed all that. These cancer patients, Brzezinski would, utilize his therapies on them. Their cancer would go away. Then they would say there would be some kind of legal injunction. You cannot do this. Then his patients would no longer be able to see him and get his therapies. Then their cancer would come back. I mean, it's insane. And so when this big bodybuilder guy sent his Hordak over to me to attack me, make this guy feel bad and threaten his life and, threaten him because he's angry because he doesn't understand, because he doesn't know all that stuff. And so basically you've got two schools of thought. You've got mine, which is we are responsible for making our choices. Now look, I know we've been vaccinated with chemicals that end up causing cancer. So that's why I'm just not a big fan of the pharmaceuticals at all, because they've totally dominated society. It's $1 trillion a year industry, and it's going up about 5.6% of growth. So it's going to be astronomical growth is what they're experiencing. And then that allows them to have unlimited funds to buy out the CDC, the FDA, any other supposedly federal institution, which most of the average person with the average intellect and consciousness or level of education on these subjects. I mean, this is all I've ever done. You know what I mean? I started juicing 25 years ago, drank wheatgrass, and then just about 20 years ago almost found the living foods. And then and then I've studied everything about healing, fasting, raw foods, detox, and the history of medicine all the way back. And then looking at and wanting to understand, how did we get in such a crappy place where we've got these industries that are literally injecting us with their products on day one, hepatitis B shot, because who knows, your newborn baby might start shooting heroin or have sex with a hooker, okay, which is pretty much the only, way that you can get hepatitis, okay? There's probably other ways that I'm overlooking right now, but those are the main issues right there. And so why are we taking the hepatitis B shot? I don't even want to get into that. But anyways, I'll tell you the whole story, okay? So first I made the post on Instagram, and there was a lot of likes. That was the thing. There was a lot of likes, almost. And I think, and I did take that post down because here's why. I had the most amount of likes on that post. I think the 40-day water fast post had more, just a little bit more, but there was a lot of likes. And I thought, okay, cool. So people are digging this information, stay away from chemotherapy and radiation and get healthy, because chemotherapy, and all these people that came over to attack me, they're like, chemotherapy and radiation is the best we have. You're irresponsible and you're killing people with your telling them to drink juice. And it wasn't just like, okay, they saw me with a picture drinking juice, fruit juice and stuff like that. But it wasn't just like, drink juice, that'll make your cancer go away. No, I'm talking about, you guys know me, this is a holistic lifestyle. You got to change your diet. You got to deal with your emotions and get them out of there. Cry, get it out. It's stagnant emotions. You got to change your mind. You got to get the energy of life flowing through you. Now, not to mention, we're getting injected with those chemicals and viruses. Okay, we inoculate or vaccinate against 12 or 15 viruses. There's a million viruses in the environment. So someone tell me why we're only vaccinating against 12 or 15 and thinking it's making a difference. No, because we want to build natural immunity. I have my beliefs. I see nature. God isn't stupid. And some dude in a white lab coat who's trying to make money off sickness is not going to impress me with their science. I don't give a shit about science, and that's the thing. There's a level, and you can understand this when you study Dr. Hawkins' works, apply it to your life, observe it. Okay, there are levels of consciousness. The vast majority of human beings, yes, are below the level of consciousness of 500. This isn't a judgment thing, this is just how it is. And below the level of 500, which is love. In other words, love is where you begin to get into the non-linear or the non-dual, where you can just love because love. Instead of loving for a reason, love is just love. Okay, but below the level of love is where you get to 499 is the highest level of intellectual erudite sophistication. If you can break through that and realize your own limitations or the limitations of the intellect, you can break through that ceiling and transcend over into the level of 500 where you can begin to see that love is the answer. Okay, but below that line, you're really generally enamored with the data. So it's a dualistic world. Okay, so then you're in the black and white. You're in the right and the wrong. And so what you have is this scenario where the vast majority of people, particularly in America, last time we checked, it was like 425 or 427 level of consciousness, which is pretty high. There's probably some countries now around the world that have transcended that, but for the most part, America was, at one time anyways, when Hawkins was alive and doing the kinesiology, the America was testing at about that, in that range, which is a pretty good range. It means you're thinking, you're using your mind. Down below that is just like in the 300s, it's just good personhood. And then down below that is like 200s and above, which is just like, at least it's integrity. And so 200 is like integrity and courage, okay? And then below that, you've got, anger, guilt, shame, etc. Fear-based. So fear up to 200 and lack of integrity. The vast majority of the world, and last time when Hawkins was here, was below that line. 80% of mankind would rip you off for $5 if it would make them could get a beer or something like that. Not knowing that really does affect your eternal soul's karma and your ability to be happy. So hopefully what you do is you get up into the 200s and then you start operating out of courage and integrity. Then you work your way up into 300s where it's just good personhood, decentness. Then you get up into the 400s where you start really being able to use the intellect to improve surroundings and stuff. So I'm not saying that science is bad, but to neglect the level beyond that, which is far more powerful, because as you evolve, each level gets progressively more and more powerful. And then once you get to the 600 level, that's when you transcend duality. That's when you get into the unity consciousness. Those are the beginning of the states of enlightenment. Okay, now this is all from Dr. Hawkins' work. Take it as you will, but I like to use it as a reference point to inspire me to continue to grow and evolve in the consciousness and try to, what I've done is take that information and look for fields of energy, books, literature, understanding, artwork that can create fields of energy that are progressively more evolutionary so that I'm surrounded by conscious people, conscious books. That's how I really do it. I read these books every night to remind me. I'm not going to go online and get sucked down into the beehive mind with these average Joes. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to stay in a higher level of consciousness. Now my job on earth is to help people to detoxify their bodies. And I don't know everything. There's so much more to learn, but what I've learned and what I'm evolving into is just helping people to have better lives no matter what level they're at. Because people call me for consultations. Every day is a totally different person. Some people are very, very evolved, and we have these very high spiritual conversations, and I reflect back to them some of the things they might want to look at, and then I learn from them as well. And then they call me for a consult, and they're just grateful to have someone who's like, oh, okay, Dan, because everyone around me's nuts. They're like, they don't get it at all. And then there's other people that are just at the basics of they're just trying to lose weight. They're trying to get off addicted to sugar. They've got some health issues with, their blood tests or whatever. And they call me up and like, what do I got to do? And I'm like, okay, so you're not drinking juice. You're not going out to exercise. It's just basic stuff. So But I just really enjoy helping anyone where they're at. And when I make a video or when I make an Instagram post, I'm going to speak my truth. That's a beautiful thing. Thank you all for being patient with me over the last 10 years while I had to really grow up on the internet, because I'm a very sensitive dude. Because when I was a little child, I was not treated well. And I didn't have a sense of security, a sense of love. I didn't have a sense of value coming from the foundational love of my parents. So I had to learn how to love myself. I had to be my own parent. I had to become my own man. And I had to question my own thoughts. And now I'm just like, okay, am I wrong here to say that chemotherapy and radiation sucks, and that I believe that unless it's an emergency medical situation, like you break an arm or you burn your hand with some acid or you get hit by a car, or some kind of situation where you're having a heart attack, of course emergency medicine, keep yourself alive, get your things sewn back on, but then don't get sucked into all the IVs and chemicals and no fresh air in the hospital and then massive hospital bills and fear. You go into the emergency medicine, which is really, really good thing that we have here in the States. But then when it comes to these chronic diseases, this is when, so it's really context. The thing is my point is, don't even get cancer in the first place. Love yourself enough to begin the detoxification process from all the chemicals and stuff that were injected into you as a baby. Now, if people are still getting flu shots and they're championing the vaccines, we're not going to see eye to eye, because you're trying to get healthy while you're simultaneously intramuscularly injecting 100% absorption of chemicals that are out of balance. Yes, fruit has chemicals. Water is a chemical, but it's made in such a way that it is synergistic. When you start extracting these things with solvents or heat and mixing up all these combinations and then putting them in a needle, that's when you're going to start to have problems, and you're intramuscularly injecting them, okay? And so the only test they have, aluminum is safe. Well, they take a whole bunch of adults, a different kind of aluminum, and then they give it orally. And then they come to the conclusion that it's okay to intramuscularly inject aluminum into babies. Okay, so how do they do that? That's their science. So all these people that were on this Instagram post that were like, show us the science. I want a double-blind, placebo-controlled study that proves that fear is the cause of all disease, and that love is the cure. Now, only if you get into a certain state of consciousness can you understand that, but that is speaking from experience. That is me seeing how much love has benefited my life and has made it into a freaking miracle. Because I was trying to do this Instagram post today about that I'm sober. It's a miracle, because I was looking at this chart and I took a picture of it online, because I'm always researching everything. And then when all this happened, I went on a major campaign and I watched a whole bunch more documentaries on the internet about how much bullcrap this whole cancer industry is, and how every single cure that ever worked got suppressed. And I'm the idiot that's killing people? No, I think we'd all agree on some level or another, just because of all the writings that I've seen from all you guys, that I've helped you in some way or another to get healthier. And I believe in live foods, and I believe in fasting, and I believe in not gumming up your body too much, and being moderate in all things, and getting a good night's sleep, and just living a healthy lifestyle and thinking right so that you don't get cancer in the first place. Now, of course, we've been injected with cancer-causing chemicals, but we can still do the work that's required if we've got any kind of health issues. But we start now. We start yesterday at cleansing and healing, and people are like, your liver and your kidneys detox good enough. Yeah, in a world like this where we are swimming in a sea of synthetic chemicals. Back in the day, it's one thing to eat too many cheeseburgers. You can just, do a three months on raw foods, and that'll get rid of the fried cheeseburger greasy slime that's just kind of sitting there on your cellulite. But when we're talking about synthetic chemicals, the body, this is all brand new. This is all in the last 100 years of the Industrial Revolution of medicine. And also, yes, oral exposure, is a lot less. When you eat a fish that's full of mercury, you don't really absorb that much mercury, because the microorganisms know what they're doing. And generally, the epithelium is in good shape unless you're exposed to the glyphosate. Again, another chemical. So if you're exposed to the glyphosate, the tight junctions open up, and then you're exposed to a lot more heavy metals and a lot more proteins and a lot more food residues, and then your joints hurt and your brain hurts and your blood is crummy. But if you can keep the glyphosate out, which is impossible, but if you can minimize it by being smart, which is totally possible, and you can eliminate I'm pretty much like 95% glyphosate free, and that's a blessing. Most people can get to 70 to 80 to 90% glyphosate. If you're real smart and you're real tapped in and you don't have to go out to dinners and crap like that, and you can really live at home and just get fresh, real food. Okay, there is no glyphosate on these bananas, period. And I know that. So I eat those and I feel good. And I know that they're not there, but so you have to do the best you can. You got to get educated on the glyphosate. So I was making a post on the Instagram about it was this post about the pharmaceutical companies making $1 million or no $1 million $1 trillion in 2017. Whoa, dude! And you think they're just gonna? Oh, Dan McDonald, you're right. Get these people to cleanse and detoxify the deep junk. Because I know these other guys that are attacking me, they don't know. Because they've never done a 40-day water fast. If you've done a 40-day water fast and you never ate nothing for 40 days, and on day 39, slime and sludge and filth that smells like rotten fish is coming out your backside, you're like, okay, is this being created because I'm starving to death? Or is this coming out of the deep recesses of my liver, my kidneys, my tissues all over, and it's just coming down in there to be released once and for all that stagnant, crummy, junky lymph and low quality fats and oxidized everything, because the human body, it accumulates stuff, and if you don't go through those periods of releasing all that, it just builds up and gets worse and worse and worse, and you get chubbier and slower, and your mind gets more sluggish, and the GI tract gets more and more clogged up, and that recirculates through your blood, and your consciousness kind of goes down, because food affects your consciousness. And so that's why I'm not mad at any of these people. In fact, that's what I wanted to say too, as a matter of fact, was that, all these people that were saying all this stuff to me, I wasn't even mad. In fact, it didn't even bother me. It was like amazing how much far I've grown. Because back in the Durian Rider days and all that crap, when he was just riding me, I felt bad. I didn't want all those crazy ass vegans over there like that, because this was my little baby. I was making money. This was my job. This was my art. It was my passion. Of course, that's a big long story, and that sucked. But now anyone can hate me as much as they want, and it's just bothering me less and less. So we've seen, because I've worked on the inside, and that's what I want to encourage you to do. Work on the inside, because what's going on inside will reflect itself outside. There's a lot less hate on the videos these days because I don't have it inside of me. So I've really began to embrace myself, love myself, accept myself. One thing is I've had to accept is the aging process. The other thing is that I don't know everything. The other thing, really, this is what's been really funny for me, is like over the last year I've had to, and I say this, and I'm not supposed to say this, and I'm not supposed to think this way, and I don't want to, but I just want to kind of say it in a sense of a joke. But it's also kind of real that most humans are just dumb. They're just not that bright. And it took me a long time to understand that people are not living in the light. They don't want to. And I should have known that a long time ago, but this has been my year to embrace that. That, wow, Dan, you love the light, you love God, you love the truth. You look at all this stuff with the vaccines and the 5G and the chemtrails, and you can, because there is light here, because my focus is the light of God inside myself. So I sit and I meditate and I have an incredible life because I cultivate a relationship with the eternal aspect of myself, and I see, oh, this flesh meat suit. And I care for the meat suit, and I clean it and I keep it nice because I really, really appreciate this thing. It's like a car or a house, I have the house cleaner coming tomorrow to keep everything organized, you know what I mean? So, because she knows what she's doing and she's just good at it, And so you keep things nice, but this thing is just what it is, but it's the eternal. That's what you want to stay tuned into, and it feels so good to be used by God. Okay, so am I going to be the famous guy on Instagram and YouTube? No, the big muscle guy who's telling everyone they can eat bacon and drink coffee and do whatever, and he's young and he can do whatever. And he's fine and he's big and buff and everyone wants to be that. And so he's going to be the popular one. The guy that's saying, look, change your life before you get cancer, and get healthy. And my point was, and it always has been, that Health is the cure for all disease. So I teach a healthy lifestyle. I'm not giving medical advice because medical advice doesn't work. Medical advice is cutting, it's burning, it's irradiating, it's poisoning, and it's symptom suppression, and it's fear. What we have here is the cultivation of health. No matter where we start, 300 pounds overweight, we just start right there. We start and we say, hey, let's live a lifestyle where we're not going to get cancer by eating a really clean diet and being very aware of the types of foods we're eating. Let's be aware of our emotions and learn how to communicate and learn how to express ourselves and deal with these stagnant emotions so the energy stays flowing. Let's educate our minds on the truth. Clear away the debris of the past and all of the social hypnosis of all of the programs and all the propaganda that's been there since way before we were born. It goes all the way back to the king 10,000 years ago. The subjects are down here and the king is up here, and he's got to figure out how to stay the king. Because you can't have these people rising up. You can't have, you know what I'm saying? So it's gotten more, it's not gotten more and more sinister. The same energy and the same consciousness, and it's the same evil. Okay, so there is a battle between, light and dark. The light always wins because the light is the truth, and the darkness wants to hide its own fears, its own lies, its own schemes. The truth can just come wide out. The truth is available to everyone all the time, wide open. Now, is it available on the internet? No, Google doesn't let anything come through anymore. Facebook got bought off by Pfizer. No more anti-vaccine stuff. It's anti-science. But yet with all these hundreds of thousands of kids being damaged by vaccines, shouldn't we look for safer vaccines? Most people have to say that to be politically correct. I don't. I am I shouldn't even say it because I don't want to bring attention because I didn't even tell you the whole story. So you know what I was going to say. I'm 100% anti. Boom. But what happened is I made that post, got a bunch of likes, and I thought, I'll take this post. And that's the reason why I bought the iPod, was so that I could have this phone to make the videos and the little iPod to read off the Instagram, the questions and stuff like that, because I wanted to be more interactive with you. So I went over there and I just read that post because it was really cool. It was to the point. I don't even remember what it was. I wish I could read it now, but I already read it. I already read it on there, so you know what it was. But I put on that video title, Natural Healing Cures. Well, first, I put something else. I put, you know what I wrote? For the title, I put, there is no cure for cancer, but you can heal yourself. And then that wasn't getting that many views. So then I was like, I took a bold shot and I did a little bit of research on the Google for the AdSense words and what the search words are for the keywords. So it was natural cancer therapies or alternatives or something like that. And as soon as I changed the title and put it back up on YouTube, that's when they sent me a warning and demonetized the video. Okay, so there was that. So everything was going great on Instagram. There was like 400 and something thousand likes, which is a lot for me. I usually get like 1,000 or 1,500. This one had like almost over 4,000 likes. Then the next day I woke up to thousands and thousands and thousands of hate comments, life-threatening, you should be dead, you should be killed, you should be in jail, show us your proof, your scientific proof, chemotherapy and radiation is all we have. And yet not aware that it's a 97% failure rate, you know what I mean, for the chemotherapy. Yes, there's a few people that are still alive, but the thing is what they don't know is that this is a proven statistical fact, somewhere between 75 and 80%, depending upon where you look for this particular survey. 75 to 80% of doctors would not prescribe chemotherapy and radiation to their family members or take it themselves. So someone needs to start thinking about this a little bit. They made $1 trillion. And imagine if people were empowered at home and could use diet, emotional maturity, learning how to just let the emotions come and go instead of them getting stuck there and eating sugar and taking drugs and everything else to suppress their feelings. Another one is smoking cigarettes and cannabis to suppress the emotions of the heart. I know that one well. It takes a long time to learn how to be okay with all of the various fluctuations and emotions, but as long as they don't get stuck, that's the thing. It's okay. I can be afraid. I can be sad. I can be miserable. But God, I don't want to like just use drugs because I'm not feeling well one day because my emotional state. No, because that suppresses, alters, damages, and then stuff. And pretty soon you're just this mess. And it's just messing you up and it's tearing you up inside. And you're just this angry, aggravated, snappy, snippy person that no one wants to be around because your heart is just a blocked up mess. Okay? Does that make sense? The mind, new data, or really what you do is you heal the brain as much as you can. And there's the various ways to do that: nature and fasting and meditation and exposing yourself to positive things, creating new neurons, building a new brain. So what I'm saying is, and I'm going to stand by my own teachings, is that you learn how to utilize your own inner power instead of becoming a victim and putting your power in someone else's hands that just they don't know what they're doing and it doesn't work. But that's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, you're going to tell me my grandpa was 79 or something like that, and he had been smoking and drinking, and he had been in the war, and he had all the vaccine shots, and he ate meat and drank alcohol, and then they gave him chemotherapy and radiation when he got throat cancer, and then he drank a green juice and it didn't work. Well, that is stupid. You take the green juice first, and it's not just green juice that heals, but green juice is my doorway into your heart. It's the practical thing. You eat 2 or 3 times a day. So food trip is the way that I've gotten into all of your hearts, because we're all going to eat. So I have had this, hey, it's food trip, and I'm less of a food tripper now, although personally more, but understanding of everyone's various levels of consciousness and where they got to roll, their lifestyles and stuff like that. I have a lot of people that still eat meat that call me. You would think that wouldn't be the case, but they see me, and I was a little bit critical for many years, and I'm not judgmental. I have my own personal moral values, but then again, just FYI, I don't think that meat and animal products are as bad as chemicals and extremely processed food, which ends up making you just weak. So I believe in vitalism, which is the vital electrical force and living water and living minerals and living nutrition and living foods that passes through the GI tract, vitalizes the tissues, vitalizes the system, vitalizes the nerves, vitalizes the brain, creates ATP, energy, electricity, life. Then there is the stimulating qualities of animal products, and it's a very stimulated world. So learning how to be on more of a Sattvic diet like I do over here with the vitalism, I'm pretty much chill out. I'm not out there running around playing CEO, trying to make $1 million, trying to get laid, trying to be somebody. I'm just a dude who loves to meditate, loves God. I got my little gig here. It's more than enough to send service out into the world and keep me happy, sending you love, sending you joy, sharing. This is kind of what this is fun for me right now, doing what I'm doing. I want to empower you in some way or another, and I really believe in this. And so I'm more of a Sattvic dude, a vitalist. I'm just filled with simple, plain, basic life force that I utilize for meditation, and I utilize for purification of the heart and service. And I'm not out in the world trying to make $1 billion. And you sometimes in this world, surrounded by all that, people do a little bit better with with some animal products. And I think that, now this might be a shock to some of you or whatever, but I'm just not a hardcore like pale vegan who eats only soy and freaks out. The history of meat within humanity is there, man. And those parasites, they're not just going to go away because you want them to. And then people feed their parasites with the fake meats. and then one day they never really get truly cleansed out of the parasites, and then they go for whatever 5 years, 3 years, 8 years, 15 years using the fake meats, and the parasites are not stoked. But they keep those parasites alive, and then one day, finally, when they're vegan and the whole thing is starting to change and the trends are changing, and they are more with the beehive mind, they eat a piece of fish, those parasites light up like the light of life, and then they feel great again because it's a stimulation. So there's these vegans that are eating this dead, processed garbage, and then they eat a piece of meat or eat some animal products, and they've got that Rajas stimulation because they're way over here on tamas, which is this heavy, lethargic, pesticides, overcooked, hard to digest, like the kitchery and the lentils and it's just like there's no vitality. There's no fresh vibrancy. Like a banana's vital. That's vitalism. It's got a lot of electrical force. Those grapefruits off of a tree. So there's a lot of issues in society today. So when these people are going back to animal products and then all of a sudden they've got that stimulating quality of the animal products, they feel better because they don't have vitalism. Because they're over here on tofuism and rice and lentils that are very heavy, and it's more just like a boom, like a rock in your gut. When you want like electrical force, you want to feed those certain types of microbes. So there's vitalism, stimulation, which is like, spices, coffee, meat products. And then down here is just the pizza and the junk food and the soda pop and the processed dead food that fills your stomach, and it might be calories, but it's got no life force. So you can understand people going, because I've seen with the vegans, they were eating all this weird dead crap, and then they went to animal products, and of course they felt better. There was some stimulation there because of the way that animal products respond in the body, and then there's muscle there because the microorganisms that digest meat, that's all the way back to the dinosaurs, knew that to survive inside of you, they need you to eat more meat. So they give you, and they have evolved over the years to produce compounds in your gut that build muscle to make you a better killer. Of course, lions don't live very long and stuff like that, but that's basically where the muscle comes from, so that you can be a better killer, so you can get more flesh food to feed them. That is not a judgment. That's just a basic, had to spend a lot of time being objective, talking to a lot of people, and I'm not using that to judge. I love vitalism, but I live in the space here I'm like a hippie. I love God, and I just love. This morning the meditation started out a little rough, but God, I got there. I went there, and I said, why don't I just sit in this space always? Then I get up and start moving about my day, and I'm not as much in that space, but it does stay with me though in a subtle way. But I love being just in that space when it just gets all quiet, because this is not quiet. This is in a different brainwave frequency that we're in right now. But when I'm in that brainwave frequency, I just love it. And I will do some meditation videos with y'all and stuff like that. So yeah. So that was that, and then there was I made this video. I put that video on YouTube, and I made those titles. And then when I put up natural healing cancer or natural cancer alternatives or something like that, I can't remember what it was. I don't even think I used the cure word, or maybe I did. Then all of a sudden I got hella traffic on that video really fast. The views went way up. But then YouTube, warning, and your video's been demonetized. This is not good, And so I was just like, oh crap. Then I saw all the thousands and thousands of hate, death threats, and everything else. But yet I kept going there, and I'd click on one, and it's like, this account not available, this account not available, this account not available, this account not available. And it didn't even look real. All these people didn't even look real. And then I checked a couple out, and it's like, okay, that kind of looks real, like a real account. Most of them didn't look like real accounts. And I thought, this is weird. Because I said on there, I was just straight up, look, I believe in health over drugs and chemotherapy, because I've seen what it's done. I had a girl here a couple of weeks ago that they just fried to death, and she didn't even want to live anymore. Chemo brain is a serious thing, and you would not wish that on your worst enemy. So if there were other alternatives, like if that's the absolute last ditch effort, and that's how some people are. They don't even start caring about themselves until they're dying, until they've been diagnosed with death. They've been dying for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that's what I don't agree with the whole medical thing and the oncologist. It's like cancer's been building up in your body for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You now get a diagnosis and we got to cut you tomorrow. It's like, slow down, calm down. What are your options? What path do you want to take? I want to give another path. Some of us might be so far gone. We're all going to die, man. So don't worry about it. We're all going to die. I'm not stupid. But do you want to die with your dignity, your self-respect, and maybe a couple bucks in the bank to give to your kids? Or do you want to die with no hair, no teeth, and 3 other kinds of cancer? If you do the research on chemotherapy and radiation, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't end well. Are there some people that are still alive in spite of it? Yes. But I bet you they'd be a hell of a lot more healthier if they would have went the other route, which is building health. Now, this is not medical advice. This is just Dan McDonald, who loves his friends. This is just me talking to my friends. It's a private video for you because you're my family. So I'm not giving medical advice. I mean, some people might construe it as that. I'm just saying, for me personally, I would rather get healthy than do chemotherapy and radiation if I had cancer. But what I'd rather do is live a cancer-free lifestyle by really getting on point, because I'm not going to eat all these fools with their nasty-ass processed food. That's my brain. That's my life. I'm a yogi. I got to be on point. I got to do the best I can. I've already been blasted from the beginning, and I'm still detoxifying aluminum out of my brain, and it's working. Okay? And one day I'll tell you about the black smoke tonic, but for now there's no point because you can't get it. It's too expensive. It's too rare. It takes 2 weeks to brew it, and I can barely get enough for myself from the guy because he's a busy dude. So it's not something that I can get up here and say, hey, everyone, we can mass order this. So I'm sorry about that. It pays to have friends in high places. But if you do the work, and it's just a blessing from God, when you keep going down the track, I exhausted everything, the raw foods and the fasting, which did make a huge difference. And I moved a lot of junk, but I prepared myself for these tonics to go deeper into the tissues and pull this crap out because it settles in there. And that's what I don't agree with. And I know that it's sinister, okay? We may or may not agree, but I do not believe in any of it. And people are starting to wake up. I told my wife 20 years ago, do not vaccinate these kids. She did it anyways. It was off and on, like she staggered them, or she said not this one, but that one. Some of them are worse than others. I don't really want to get into the details. I study this stuff like a lot. And online it's being suppressed, so it's sad because I can't really go down that road. In fact, that's what happened. When they did that with the video and they said, warning, you're demonetized, I was like, okay, boom, they're watching. Now it's just bots, but they're looking for keywords and titles and stuff like that so they can suppress information or non-monetize these videos that are telling the truth. And they're eradicating truth all over. You should know that by now. We should all know that they've been doing it for forever, but in the beginning, we could talk the truth on the internet. Nowadays, we just can't because they bought out everything and they finally hemmed up all the loose ends, and they got Twitter and they got Facebook and they got YouTube and they've got it all on lockdown. So we're really struggling in the dark, and the people with the average IQ, they're going to get freaked out, not know where to go looking for truth, and not even be able to find it. They're going to find a bunch of bull crap papers written on Google about how safe everything is and how wonderful and magical everything is. And you're not going to see the hundreds of thousands of mothers that are going to say, one day my kid was normal, got blapped in the arm, and 4 hours later was diagnosed with autism, okay? And then these dunderheads are like, correlation doesn't mean causation, and all these other stupid memes that mean nothing. So be smart. That's all I'm saying. Be intelligent. Look through the hoopla. Look through the propaganda. The whole world is propaganda because the truth is plain and simple. The truth is so plain and so simple. Health is already there inside of you. Health is always operating. Stay out of its way. So try not to eat too much. Eat the perfect amount, or even a little bit less, and you'll live a lot longer. Stress, get rid of it. What do you got to do? You got to change your mind. You got to change your perspective. You're going to be like, okay, if I lose everything, so what? I'll be free. We're so programmed and identified with our titles and our material possessions, but you are the light. The light inside of you is the greatest treasure. So inside of this thing, not even this body, because you're borrowing this thing from the earth. And the closer you live to the earth and her ways, the better it shall function. But what you really are is the divine, eternal light of eternity. Unending and forevermore. You're just a manifestation, and here you are, and then you'll go back. But the light that is the animating principle of your deepest self, that animates the body, that animates the consciousness in the mind, that animates the heart and breathes your lungs all day and does all these things. It digests your food. It's the divine intelligence. It's the infinite. It's this whole process and system that is infinite intelligence inside of you. And if we can get out of the way of that, tap into it, let it flow through the system and do what it does, we never have to have blockages or occlusions. Now, we do get injected. We have environments, but that means that you can move away from the smart meter. You can go where there isn't any wireless radiation. If you have a diagnosis, you just go somewhere where there's just fresh air, sunshine, and a calm vibe. I mean, how much is your life worth to you? My point is that there are choices. And so the Hordak that came over and attacked me, they are the victim mentality that are angry, because that was what the guy was. The guy wrote it out, and he was just an angry, pissed off guy because he doesn't know what I know. Because I deal with these people every day, and they come to me after the fact. I wish they'd come to me before, But they come to me after, and they've been fried and burned. And even when that girl had a parathyroid taken out and been blasted with radiation and chemotherapy and barely even wanted to live, and her hormones were just down to nothing, because that's another thing. You lose your hair, you lose your teeth, you get more different cancers, you completely lose your reproductive capacity, and those are just some of the side effects. And 1 week after juicing and living foods, she wanted to live again. So you can see how bringing in some of that vitalism into the system and bringing that life force consciousness, which is in the food in a certain way, or the essence of those foods is life, because it's pure and it's not a dead thing. It's a living thing that wants to be offered to you by the tree, so that you can be involved in the flow and the cycle of life with no karma, except good karma, because you're taking those fruits and you're eating them, and they're the most vital foods, and you take those seeds and you spread those seeds for that tree. So you're actually producing good karma. There's only really one type of food that has an actual positive karmic effect, and that is fruit. And the coconuts and things like that, cucumbers, amazing foods filled with vital life, filled with living water. So the dehydration is an issue. The chemicals are an issue. The viruses that get injected into your arm. This is brutal stuff, man. And when we start getting down to where we really want to make it happen, we will learn about water fasting. We will prepare ourselves, and we will continue to purify this vessel and make it healthy. If you can be a victim or you can take charge, And there are lots of nuances. I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. I'm just wanting to be inspiring and saying, yes, we all die, but man, die with your dignity. Die with your teeth in your hair, for crying out loud, feeling decent in your body, instead of all fried up, dead broke, humiliated, a pale of yourself because it's mustard gas. That's what it is. And they used that as a nerve gas in the war to make them have nervous problems. And now we're, using it as a medicine. I mean, it's really, 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 really bizarre what's going on. And, if you understand the whole Rockefeller thing and the merging of the Carnegie and then the AMA, that the AMA just exploded, and then they've overtaken ever since. And now we have a society of brainwashed people that cannot even understand that health is the cure for all disease. So I'm just telling everyone, get healthy. Get healthy now before you get cancer. But if you do get a diagnosis of cancer, still get healthy. Anytime along the route, from day one of your child being born, pump that child full of health, fresh air, pure food that isn't altered, no stress, love, kindness, peaceful, easy. Live way below your means. Do you need all that crap? Move to the country, buy a little 2-bedroom, plant some planter boxes in the backyard and chill out. What you chasing down? Because it's emptiness. But once you got the light, you don't even want nothing except more light. You want to be of service, and you want to serve, and you want to be the best person you can be. And all the money in the world, although, you can definitely, money is useful, and it's a very useful tool to be able to help people in various ways. So money is good if it's used for the right thing. But to chase it down to try to fill up your empty cup, it ain't never going to work. Chasing women or chasing men, chasing love, relationships, fame, it's all going to try to be a waste of your time. And these are more of the things that I want to talk about in the future, although I do believe still yet in vitalism quite a bit. Living foods a lot, without trying to make people feel bad, because the world has turned into a crazy house where there's just not really that much good food left, to tell you the truth. So you got to go way out of your way to make that happen. So you do the best you can, but you try to take these principles of vitalism, and if you can't do that with the diet completely, at least you got to do the heart work. The clear cleansing GI tract food trip of the clean, the healthy fiber, and the washing of the watermelons and the cucumbers and nice clean big giant heads of romaine and some nuts and seeds and some bee pollen and just spirulina and other things that you can use just to be healthy. You're not going to be all jacked up like a meat eater, but you're going to be vital. You're going to be calm, relatively. I mean, I get excited on these videos, but generally I've noticed that's how it goes, and that's a choice I make, is to be calm, centered, peaceful yogi. That's all I want, is to live and be calm and centered and peaceful and get more, just learn how to utilize my own inner essence. And that's what I want to teach you, is to become empowered, to learn to use the power that you have at your disposal. And it is magnificent, far beyond what any of us are willing to accept. And we should keep growing that power, that self-empowerment, learning how to utilize our own energy to, if it is we want to make money, if we do want to heal ourselves of a disease, if we do want to attract an amazing relationship, do it consciously with the great power that is within you. So when I went back over there the next day after I posted that video, then I went over to go look at the Instagram post, and there was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of crazy people that were just pissed off that I would say such a thing. Juicing doesn't work. You're an idiot. Like double-blind placebo-controlled studies. Vaccines are awesome. Chemotherapy is the best we have. Is it? That's what people think. That's what we've been led to believe, because they didn't want to look at all the other natural cures. They didn't want to know about SCIAC. They wouldn't allow it. They didn't want to know about the Hoxsey cure. They don't want to see the results. They don't want to see the paperwork of the thousands and thousands of people that cured themselves with the Gerson therapy. They don't want to see that. And then they say, nowadays there's these studies, we tried the Gerson therapy, it actually made them worse. So raw foods and juicing actually made people worse. Now, who do you think's doing all this data? Who do you think's doing all this science? And who do you think's paying for it? Science is a joke these days. It's not even real. It's whoever's paying the paycheck. You can manipulate. Everything is fudged. It's all a bunch of hogwash. If it doesn't make simple, basic common sense, all the fancy schmancy business about this, that, the other, about how wonderful aluminum is, and then you go over here to all the people that study aluminum and they say, you shouldn't be injecting this into kids, and they've been studying aluminum for 20 and 30 years, and quack, you're a conspiracy nut. And these guys are just, I started studying aluminum 30 years ago before any of these things were even questions. All I've ever done is study aluminum, and here's what I think. No, you can't, It's just, no. It's the world has gone mad, and only in the sense that these multi-trillion-dollar conglomerate of pharmaceutical giants have literally taken over the world. And we need to ask ourselves, do we want to be cut up? Do we want to have our glands cut out? Do we want to take drugs the rest of our lives? That was another post I was making. Like, hey, I'm sober, man. Can you believe that? After a whole lifetime of drugs, I am totally sober. And I don't judge anyone, but I love it. Do I wish sometimes I had a crutch? Of course, maybe. But I'm glad I don't. I'm glad I just say no, that I just don't. That I stay clear and stay bright. You can't be a yogi and take weed or alcohol. You just can't do it. You got to stay clear. You got to stay bright. You got to keep building. And that's why I do it, is because I do it for you, because I do it for myself, so that I can do it for you, so I can be a better person, because I really, really appreciate this. What we have right here. This is a small little thing. I'm never going to be famous. Well, I won't say that. Maybe someday something will happen and I'll get smart and figure out how to do all this crap and tell everyone what they want to hear. I ain't never going to do that. I'm never going to, bacon and eggs, it's a superfood. It's like, that's what the average person can deal. But it's like, that's a pig, man. And you don't want to eat pigs. Pigs eat anything. They eat each other. They eat shit. You don't want to eat pigs. They don't even detoxify. So you're getting all this pork and you get all that slimy, sludgy crap, and you're putting that into your holy temple. So anyways, if you tell people bacon and eggs are the greatest superfood meal in the entire world, I definitely think eggs are on a much higher level than bacon, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is that, I'm just trying to let it come through. I didn't even pray before this video. I wish I would have. So hopefully everything came through that was good. And that's just my personal thing. But when I went back over there, there was hundreds of thousands of all this hate. And I thought, oh my God, the government. I thought it was like government trolls or something. I found out that it was just this big bodybuilder guy who's a PhD, but, PhD and intellectualism and, the social institutions of education, they don't really mean shit to me, because there's a difference. We pride ourselves on intellect. I pride myself on intelligence. There's a big difference. Intelligence is the ability to pay attention and make different decisions based on the new conditions that are arising in your experience. The intellect does the same thing over and over and over again because it believes that that data was the correct data for all situations all the time. And so there's no variability, there's no fluidity. The intelligence allows for one to, somebody calls me up for a consult and I use the divine intelligence within me and all the experience that I've had. Hey, this person needs to lose weight. So I go to their level through the intelligence and I become more creative, within that moment of and tap into what they need to be helped. And then there's other people that are like, Dan, I'm spiritually lost. And I go to another completely different fluid place. But if someone calls up someone like that big guy over there, he's got the same, you need 5,000 calories, and then you need to make sure that you lift 3 times a week heavy and lift 2 times a week low, everybody across the board. And what if some 85-year-old grandma calls you to build some muscle? Are you going to tell her that same thing? So that's the intellect versus the intelligence. And the intelligence is fluid, and that's where we're operating from. And I'm just saying it's all very simple. I don't believe in these conglomerates, I don't believe they have our best interest at heart. In fact, I would say just the opposite, that it's quite sinister. Some of you may agree with me, some of you may not. I'm protecting myself. I want to share with you what I think you can do to protect yourself from all the craziness in our society and our disconnection from nature. I want to encourage you: natural foods, natural feelings, natural environments, natural simple thoughts. Do the best you can with everything you have. 1 hour is always enough. I hope this video was good enough for now. So let me know what you think. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification button. Go to my Instagram because I'm pretty busy over there. I love you. 60 minutes. Let me know what I can do to be of service. Amen. Peace be with you.